Welcome to The Other Opinion. This is the channel where we really try to lean into those perspectives that maybe don't get talked about enough, the ones that can show you what's really going on. Today, we're jumping into, well, it's a fascinating real-time battle playing out right now in the Bollywood box office. We're talking about this totally unexpected clash between two huge films, War II and Coolie. Yeah, and we're drawing on some really recent kind of eye-opening scoops from the Bollywood Hungama News Network and also a great piece by Fennel Sito. Our mission here is basically to unpack how raw audience demand is, like actually shifting the power balance, even changing show allocations, in an industry that often feels very top-down. So if you find this sort of behind-the-scenes stuff interesting, please do like this deep dive and definitely share your other opinions down in the comments. We love reading those. And subscribe to The Other Opinion so you don't miss what's next.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. How did this whole thing look initially? Because before any tickets were sold, this felt like a classic Goliath versus David situation.
War II wasn't just, expected to be big. It was seen as the juggernaut.
Yeah.
Absolute giant. Yeah, all the early industry buzz, the expectations, it was all pointing towards War II just completely dominating everything. It really felt like Coolie was going to be, well, almost a non-event, just swept aside.
Absolutely. And that wasn't just perception. It was backed up by some pretty aggressive moves right from the start. Bollywood Hungama had this really explosive report. It detailed how YRF Yash Raj Films, obviously a huge player they'd initially bagged, get this, 100% showcasing.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. All the shows in single screens, dual screens, triple screen properties right across India.
Wow. That's market control.
It really is. And I mean, that basically left Coolie scrambling for scraps. They were looking at maybe one or two shows and only in the biggest, like, 4-screen multiplexes. So, yeah, from the outside, it looked like game over before it even started. A really tough spot for Coolie.
Okay, so it sounds like a complete lockdown, but then, like you said, something shifted. In just the last 4 days, something pretty dramatic happened in this showcasing fight. The tide started turning, and apparently it was all down to the advanced bookings. So, all right, let's unpack this. How did early ticket sales manage to flip things so quickly? Especially when War II seemed to have everything sewn up.
It's kind of amazing, actually. The key thing here was seeing Coolie's showcasing literally increase day by day. And it was purely because the advanced booking response was just better than anyone expected. Way better. So initially, Coolie's first day capacity, right, the maximum it could earn with its limited shows, that was pegged at around 8 crore rupees.
Okay.
But then, boom, because of this surge in advanced sales, that potential capacity shot up by 60%.
60%, just like that.
Just like that, pushing it up to 13 crore rupees.
Yeah.
Now, what's really interesting is, War II is still probably going to lead overall in Hindi collections. Everyone expects that. But there's a real chance now that Coolie could actually clock better occupancy on release day, specifically in Hindi.
Better seat filling, even with fewer screens overall.
Exactly. Because its initial allocation, its sort of footprint, was way smaller than the actual audience demand that suddenly appeared. The demand just swamped the initial supply.
Right, so the demand forced the market to adjust, basically. And this wasn't just theoretical, right? The multiplexes actually started changing things, because we heard from a leading multiplex player anonymously, of course, who basically said, look, Coolie is doing well in Tier 2, Tier 3 centers. So we're increasing the shows, there's demand, and we're service providers. We have to match it.
It's a very direct admission.
Yeah. And even more telling, maybe, was the cinema owner we spoke to. Runs a 2-screen place. He said, we had strict orders from YRF, no shows for Coolie, none. But, he says, we've now managed to get 2 shows of Coolie anyway just because of audience demand, and tickets are selling.
That's incredible, directly overriding studio instructions.
Exactly, because people are clicking book. And you can see this change happening right now if you look on platforms like Book My Show. The extra shows are there. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If audience clicks can change Showtimes.
Right.
Wow. Hey, if you're finding this as fascinating as we are, give us a quick like, let us know your thoughts below, and definitely hit subscribe for more of these deep dives from The Other Opinion.
Yeah, it's a really unprecedented situation for a lot of these exhibitors. I mean, think about the power dynamics usually. They operate under pretty strict terms from the big studios, especially for major releases. But now, this real-time data from advanced bookings, it's just undeniable. When a film like Coolie, which was initially sidelined, starts showing such strong advanced numbers, well, multiplexes have to respond. It becomes a financial thing.
Pure business sense kicks in.
Right, they're businesses. They can't afford to leave empty seats, especially when another film is clearly showing demand. The risk of having empty seats for the sure thing that isn't booking as fast is suddenly bigger than the risk of giving more shows to the underdog that is selling tickets. It's just a perfect example of data and consumer behavior directly messing with traditional distribution strategies, bypassing the old gatekeepers.
And maybe the best place to see this playing out, like a microcosm of the whole battle, is at Mumbai's Gaiety Galaxy, the G7 Multiplex. This place isn't just any cinema. People in the industry really see it as a key barometer. And their management made this showcasing decision that apparently really surprised a lot of people. Because traditionally, right, when you have a massive event film like War II, it's almost an unwritten rule. It gets all the prime shows in G7's biggest screens, the huge 1,000-seater Gaiety, the 800-seater Galaxy. We saw it with Pathan, Tiger 3, Sikandar, Sam
Just standard procedure for blockbusters.
Exactly. So the assumption was, okay, Coolie's Hindi version, maybe it gets a couple of shows in the little Gemini Theater, the 238-seater, if that. But here's where it got really interesting. The actual schedule that came out, totally different.
Yeah, it really deviated from the norm, and it definitely sent some shockwaves.
Yeah.
Let's look at the actual G7 schedule they announced. So, Coolie. It didn't just get 2 shows in the small Gemini, like at 3 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Crucially, they also gave it the 11:30 a.m. matinee show, A&D, the 6 p.m. evening show in the big 800-seater Galaxy.
In the Galaxy, wow, okay.
Right. Now, War II, sure, it got its 4 shows in the biggest screen, Gaiety. That was expected. But its other 4 shows were actually split. 2 in Gemini, 11:30 a.m., 6:15 p.m., and 2 in Galaxy, 2:45 p.m., 9:15 p.m. So you see, Coolie grabbed some really prime slots, including that key matinee in the large Galaxy Theater, directly challenging War II's expected hold there.
So what was the trigger? Just the early bookings?
Pretty much. An industry insider basically said the response to Coolie's initial advanced bookings, even just in those small Gemini shows, was terrific. That apparently emboldened Coolie's distributors to push hard for Galaxy shows. And G7 management actually agreed. Why? Because, as the insider put it, Coolie clearly had the demand right then, while War II's bookings were, quote, yet to pick up in a big way.
Demand talk.
Demand talks. And look, if War II bookings do pick up closer to the release, which they might, this whole setup could actually lead to a really healthy Independence Day weekend overall at G7. Sort of like what happened in August 2023, remember, with Gaydar 2 and OMG 2 both doing massive business there simultaneously.
Right, that was huge.
Yeah. And just as a side note, globally, Coolie is apparently already leading War II by about art meters. 70 crores at the box office from previews in international markets.
Yeah.
That's significant.
70 crores already. Wow. Okay, so G7, this massive barometer, is basically saying tradition said one thing, studio orders maybe said one thing, but the audience numbers demanded something else and we listened? That feels like a pretty big deal. What's the takeaway here? What does this signal about where the power is shifting? Because this isn't just industry gossip now, right? This actually affects you, the person deciding what movie to see.
Exactly. I mean, the big picture here, what this whole deep dive shows, is this kind of real-time negotiation happening. The old way, top-down control, studios dictating terms, controlling supply, that's being directly challenged. And it's being challenged by collective audience demand, shown really clearly through advanced bookings. Your choice, your click on that book now button, it's having an immediate direct impact.
Even against studio wishes.
Even against initial studio plans or orders, yeah. It's such a clear example of demand dictating supply in real time. It shows that audience power isn't just some vague concept. It's actively reshaping the market right now. It's making films available where they might have been squeezed out. And it really poses that bigger question for all of us, doesn't it? How much power do we as consumers actually have now? Not just in deciding if a product is successful, but in influencing its very availability, its distribution, especially in this digital data-heavy world.
That is the core question, isn't it? If consumer demand can shake up Bollywood distribution this fast, and let's face it, Bollywood can be pretty set in its ways, what other industries could see similar shifts. Imagine if consumers could influence supply chains or distribution so directly elsewhere. Music, fashion, getting niche products to market. Could it, democratize access?
It definitely opens up possibilities.
It really does. Well, that's been our deep dive into the fascinating power dynamic shaking up the Bollywood box office. Thanks for joining us here on The Other Opinion, where, we love digging into these less obvious but super important perspectives. If you found this insightful, please do give it a like, share it with anyone you think might find it interesting, and most importantly, subscribe to The Other Opinion, and please leave your other opinions in the comments below. We genuinely want to hear them. Just a quick note, this was an AI deep dive aimed at providing providing information. Some of it might be wrong. Thanks for listening.